edition of You've Got a Thing, a social media thing about Milwaukee theater things. I'm Jill Anna Ponasik. I'm the artistic director of Milwaukee Opera Theater, and I'm thrilled to be meeting Lisa from No Studios. Lisa, welcome.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me.
I am so thrilled to meet you. We have not met in real life, and so this is such a great opportunity to
The
get
next best thing.
Yeah, the next best thing, exactly.
It's almost real. Yes.
So close, so close. Very few things get me as excited as artist funding. And so I can't wait to hear you talk about your thing today. What do you have to share with us?
Yeah, so, just maybe a little bit of quick background about No Studios for those who aren't familiar with us. We started our company in 2018. We actually have a physical building, which is located in the Pabst Brewery Complex, not too far from Fiserv Center. We share a parking lot with the Brewhouse Inn, for those that may be familiar with the area. And the concept between my brother and I, my brother is John Ridley, and we're co-founders of the company, is to provide a destination for creatives and artists and activists. And destination has, especially with COVID, is defined fairly broadly. So we have the physical space, as I just mentioned, but we also have a virtual space. And so we really want to provide a home, if you will, for creatives to perform, to discuss, to convene in both the physical and virtual space. As kind of an extension of that concept of providing support and amplifying the voices of creatives, we wanted to do something much more intentional, especially during COVID, where the creative communities everywhere, including in southeastern Wisconsin, were devastated. As you know, most artists make their money from performance, and the inability for people to gather was devastating, and there just really wasn't enough funding to compensate artists for the lack of money that they were receiving by not being able to perform. And so we've always had this design and this intention, but we wanted to do something a lot more deliberate and immediate and urgent during COVID. So last year we started a fund to gift $100,000 per year to individual artists. We're focused specifically on marginalized communities, so BIPOC communities, female and female identifying, disabled, veterans, communities, and LGBTQ communities that often have their voices diminished for a variety of reasons. We wanted to uplift these communities specifically, but anyone is welcome to apply. I think a couple of things that make the program unique is that we gift the money to individuals and not institutions, because the thought is that many creatives don't have the luxury of being attached to a nonprofit. They're entrepreneurs, they're freelancers, they're acting on their own, and we wanted to uplift their voices and support their work. And the other thing also is that we don't require commercial viability. So in other words, the artist doesn't necessarily have to have a project that someone's going to buy. It doesn't have to be a script that someone's going to, essentially, pay for. It can just be a form of self-expression. So it's very open-ended in that way. So we launched almost exactly a year ago in 2021. We gift $25,000 per quarter. And what we've done is we've sort of devised a system where we divide the funds into a form of self-expression per quarter. So we started with visual arts, and then we went to music, and then we just awarded the filmmaker grants in mid-December of last year. And now, for this discussion, we're coming up on the performance grants, which is it's everything but the other three. Essentially, to give me everything else. And so, but what most of the applications have come in for some sort of performance art, including dance, spoken word, and theater. And that kind of brings us to the present.
I have so many questions about everything that you just said, and thoughts and gratitude to share, not just for the boldness of the funding initiative and its targeted, um, and the target that you're hitting with it, but also the fact that it's supporting artists directly is magnificent, and that you're supporting the artists that were hit the hardest by the pandemic shutdowns, specifically for the reasons that you described, the freelancers and the independent artists and those that didn't have, any kind of other safety net. I read that it's $25K per quarter. Can you tell us about sort of average grants?
So we gift between a couple $100 to $10,000 is the highest amount that one person can get. And I can tell you, in the filmmaker grant category, which we just awarded, so I happen to have those numbers in my head, 2 of the individuals received $10,000 and 2 received $2,500. I would say, if I think back over the course of the last 9 months or so, the average grant is maybe $5,000, but it really is dependent upon the need in the application. So, some of the applications come in and the artist may only want a couple $1,000. In some cases, their project is more ambitious and they're looking for a fuller amount. And then the judges, by the way, all of the judges live outside of Wisconsin. So, No Studios is completely agnostic, hands off. We outsource the administration to Generator, and then they, in turn, convene a jury that is not in Wisconsin, but still expert in the form of self-expression. The jury may receive an application for $500 and say, we actually think this person needs a couple $1,000 to complete the work. So there is a bit of discretion there, but I just love the flexibility to be able to fund a micro project or a more ambitious project. And then the support is not in there. Generator provides a mentorship program, opportunities for networking within the sort of arena where the artist is focused. And for the filmmaker specifically, which is our sweet spot, because John obviously is, very immersed in the filmmaking arena, we offered the grant recipients an opportunity actually just earlier this week. Just today is, what is today? Friday? Yes. So
I think so.
Monday.
I'm not 100% sure.
An opportunity to be interviewed by a journalist from The Wrap, which is a Hollywood-based publication, on their platform in order to create exposure and, visibility and so on and so forth. So we tried to not just give money, but also try to find creative paths for support beyond the financial aspect.
One of the things that I found delightfully surprising when I explored this was the ease of the application process and the flexibility built into that. I am so used to seeing things that are incredibly challenging and demanding for very small amounts of funding. And this was one that seemed so open to different people's points of view and different people's experiences, and reliant on sort of the sample of work more than anything else. And I guess I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because, I'm going to be very honest with you. This was an ad hoc initiative. John called me and said, we've got to do something. Neither one of us had done this before. And maybe that's actually an advantage, because we're not familiar with process in this way, and, it was the midst of the pandemic. And obviously there were so many urgent issues. And I was just like, well, how can we quickly get this done and still be responsible? And so streamlining was just an easy way to sort of get this done. The other advantage that I think we have is that John is self-funding.
Yeah.
So this is 100% funded by No Studios. We're not going out to donors, although, I guess anyone who wants to jump on board,
We won't say no
if they want to.
No.
But we're not seeking. We have no deliberate plan to seek external sponsorship dollars. So when you're self-funding, you have a lot of flexibility to avoid process. And so we can't, we just have the luxury of being able to streamline things, do things in a way that really channels John's vision rather than the vision of the consensus vision of a lot of board members. Not to say that that's not there's nothing wrong with that process, because you get a good result because you have professionals doing this. But ours is just more streamlined because we're really channeling the vision of one individual who truly, wants to give money in a way that he would like to receive it. Maybe that's the way, the whole program is built around a program that John would have liked to have had when we were kids, growing up in Milwaukee. I think, most people in the audience probably know that, we're from Milwaukee. This would have been transformative for John. And so he's like, I want to craft a program that would have been helpful to me. And it's really a manifestation of his vision from that perspective.
It's so generous and so thoughtful and community oriented. It's really moving to hear about wielding power in such a generous way. It's beautiful. I want to sit with that for a while. I did want to ask you about criteria. I know it's developing and it's organic, but what are some of the criteria that you look for when you are reading through applications? And what is some of the feedback that you've received from these first couple of years of funding in terms of impact on those who've been funded and their projects?
So again, the criteria is not totally specific, but I'm going to channel John as we built this, and I'll give you the guidance that I give to the jurors, because before we award the funds, once the application is closed, I always take the opportunity to speak with the jurors and just let them know about the mission and so on and so forth. One of the things that I know John values is authenticity. Couple of things. It's going to be more than one thing. Authenticity and originality. And what he's really looking for from the applicants, and again, he never actually receives the applications, but I give this instruction to the juries, is something that may be a bit on the edge, that may be unconventional, that kind of pushes a conversation forward that may be viewed as somewhat risky. And this is why we don't have a commercial viability component, because those things may not be commercially viable. And if you look at the filmmaker recipients, again, from just this last round, there were 4, and I'm pleased to say, coincidentally, 4 women. They're all women.
Yes.
So, personally super excited about that. And again, totally coincidence. Obviously that, is not a criteria. But, some of the filmmakers do quite experimental, cutting edge things. And, John is really looking for originality, something fresh, something, new. Not necessarily something that, is commercially viable or that can sell. I think the other thing that's actually the primary thing. The other thing that we really do look for, and I've spoken with Generator at length about this, is some sort of community aspect. Is the artist community focused? Are they, and again, this can manifest itself in many different ways, but are they looking to enrich community? And that could be representation, it could be information, it could be education, it could be convening. But is the art going to create community or support community in some way? And so we're kind of looking for that through the personal narratives. Other than that, it is extremely open, and as you alluded to, the application is fairly short. I will say that the feedback that we've gotten from the jurors is this is a fresh approach. We appreciate the opportunity to be very open in our process and not contained by a lot of having to check a lot of boxes. For many of the jurors, again, who are outside of Wisconsin, this is the first opportunity that I'm sorry, one big criteria is the artist needs to be living and working in Wisconsin. That I should have said that up front. That's obviously that's the whole intent. But many of the jurors have never had an opportunity to review the work from this large community of Wisconsin artists. So, because they're living in LA or New York or Chicago or many other places. And so they're thrilled. They're, in some cases, I think pleasantly surprised that there's so much talent, such deep talent in Wisconsin. But that's really the scope of the criteria.
And then when you've worked with the artists and they've completed their projects, or have some completed them, or are they still embryonic?
So when they come to us, they're in many different stages of development. Some of them, like for the filmmakers, they had trailers. Some of the artists actually had, projects that were partially in completion. I have not had the opportunity yet to follow up, because we're just approaching a year in to see if the projects have been complete. But one of the things that, we are planning on is in April, when we have all of the 4 kind of components completed, is to have some sort of celebration of all of the artists and allow them to show their work and, meet each other and demonstrate what they've done. And so at that point, I'll be able to be more precise about which projects have actually been completed.
Oh, I will so look forward to that. What feedback have you received from the artists who have been granted these opportunities in terms of the difference that it might be making for them?
What we're hearing is, first of all, the financial support is real. I mean, that's just,
This is sort of what maybe I'm asking a question that I actually have sort of a pointed intent that I shouldn't have, but I'm remembering an interview I read years ago about artist grants that had happened to be in the Twin Cities, and they were hearing from folks about what they used them for, and it was like dental care and new glasses and lunch, and so I just wanted to ask, it's supporting the art, but also just say that this is a community that needs more funding.
I mean, a lot, it's survival. I mean, it really is. And again, I think survival made more urgent because of the pandemic, but it's just being able to continue to pursue one's craft, and artists come to us, some of them obviously have jobs outside of the passions they pursue in order to survive, and some of them don't. We're not overly specific about how the funds need to be used, and we don't have, I mean, this has actually been an internal discussion. Should we require some sort of financial accounting after the fact? Right now we don't, because we want to provide the flexibility. The current feeling is that any money that we contribute to the artist is going to be used well, even if, even, and maybe especially if it's used for rent.
Right.
It's just, the artist needs to survive in order to continue to create the art.
Right.
And so, I haven't gotten a tremendous amount of feedback yet about it specifically where the funds have used. But the other thing that we're trying to do is create a platform for these artists so that they can continue to fundraise, so that this can be sort of a launching pad and give them maybe incremental amount of credibility or validation so that they can say, oh, I got the No Studios Artist Grant. Oh, was interviewed by Steve Pond. Oh, I was, we also have a relationship with the local news media. Oh, I was, on WISN, you know, use that as an opportunity to continue to raise funds. How can we support you with your fundraising efforts going forward? And the networking component, I'm hoping is a serious part of that. My dream would be to continue doing this and then have kind of an alumni association where the artists can connect with each other and continue to provide that ongoing support. Because the reality is, it never ends. The other goal that I'm really hoping is kind of a tangential, kind of unintended but maybe intended outcome is, I think it's very important for the outside of Milwaukee ecosystem to understand the importance that art plays in the Milwaukee arena. And again, not just Milwaukee, but Wisconsin, that there is an important art community in Wisconsin that is probably under-recognized and under-acknowledged and underappreciated outside of Milwaukee. And by developing this kind of network of artists and showcasing them, because we're giving the money away and we're using the opportunity to showcase these artists, that the outside of Milwaukee ecosystem will recognize that, wow, Wisconsin really is a home for these artists. There is actually a very important Wisconsin diaspora of artists. Who, we've become more and more connected to, that are beginning to recognize that, great things are happening with regard to art in Wisconsin. And then we're hoping to bring them into this project in some way or another to help shape it and amplify it and support it.
One of the things that I think will be so interesting to watch, the impact over the next few years, I know we need to wrap up, but you're also making me think of a different article that I read about the Turner Prize for visual art. And a journalist asked, how are you so good at picking these generationally influential artists to receive these prizes? And the juror said, I'm not sure that it's necessarily us having the vision to pick the next great artists. It's the fact that we pick artists and then the funding allows them to be braver and bolder in their work and become the next generation of influential artists. And I'm curious how this will impact these individuals. So there's the external marketing that you're talking about and the connectivity and the fundraising, but then there's also that internal sense of self and mission that you support through the money that could help people make better work than they might have made if they didn't have that support. And that, I think, is maybe more exciting.
Well, I always go back to John, who started off like all of the artists that are in Wisconsin that we're dealing with now. And I would say didn't even start at that level. We're actually talking to artists that have produced something, that can apply for a grant. And, I just think back growing up with John when, he wasn't in a position to apply for anything, but what is the difference between the artist that is able to pursue their craft, whether or not they become a celebrity or, but they're able to pursue their craft, and an artist that can't. And, I think it's a combination of funding, acknowledgement, but also the way the artist views themselves. I think that's so much of it. And so somewhere along the line, John viewed himself as an artist. And I don't know what actually happened to make that flip in his head. But when he viewed himself as an artist, there was no one that could tell him that he wasn't. It was just like, no, I'm an artist. I'm going to be doing this forever. And I think that one of the gifts that we can give these, nascent artists, I was going to say young, but, they're all different ages. But they're emerging in the sense that they're, still striving. They're striving artists. Is the gift of, validation. the financial support for sure, but also validation that this is, appreciated. You have something to offer the world. You're change makers. And I think that, when the artist internalizes that, just like anyone in any profession, nothing is going to deter them, once they've decided that they're going to be on this path. And, I think especially for the, younger artists
Yeah.
who may not have had the benefit of role models, validation, especially in Wisconsin, because you're not getting all of those external inputs. If you're in LA, it's one thing because everyone is expecting you to be an artist.
Yeah.
But, I think in an environment where you're not surrounded by the ecosystem, I think it's very important to manufacture that for the artists. And so, I'm hoping, and, time will tell, that we're able to give that particular gift along with the financial assistance so that the artist is able to say, you know what, this is my path. I'm going to do this. My journey may take a lot of twists and turns, but I'm going to be very, I'm going, this is a pursuit.
Thank you so much for the boldness of your vision and the passion to follow through with it. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this conversation today, and I cannot wait to meet you in real life. I hope sometime soon.
Exactly. We're so close. We're so close.
Just keep going. In the spring when you do the alumni gathering and we
Yes, I'll definitely reach out. I'm super excited. But thank you so much for giving me the chance to talk about this. I mean, my only anxiety about, giving this money away is that there's someone out there that never knew about it.
Right.
That, didn't apply because they just didn't know. And by you providing this platform, there are many more people who are now aware and may apply, and it may be transformative for them.
Yeah, I feel personally motivated to reach out to a few people to make sure that's on their radar.
Please do. Thanks so much.
I'm so glad you did that interview.
Was it coherent?
No, you're just so much better at that shit than I am. It's just that's just your like headspace and things, and and I'm just like I'm just cheerleader.
It's a very exciting topic that we don't talk about enough.
Oh yeah. I mean, but this sort of wraps into the thing of how, we were going to try and have an MTA meeting next week, and now we've moved it because we do want to move into that phase of supporting the individual artist outside of the established organization. I got to tell you, I'm totally applying for this grant. I already started filling it out and all that. everything that's filling it out. Like, bing, I got that. Bing, I got it. Bing. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I've already spent $10,000. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very excited about it. I mean, just and just in the sense of the opportunity of getting your mind into that avenue of the possibility of funds for the individual artist. Do you know what I mean? Like moving, like she said, she didn't know when John really thought of himself as an artist. I remember myself moving into that myself of calling yourself a theater artist as opposed to like an actor, like whatever that is. So I think no matter what happens with all of this, it's just a great opportunity for lots of people to get themselves into that headspace. You know what I'm saying? So
it's huge. That was a really poignant moment in the conversation.
There's a lot of poignant shit in there. I'm so glad that she came on and bless them over there. That I mean, I hope that again, and this is only like the first year, so hopefully they get a ton of investors into there and be like, this is a really great idea. But I so hope that it stays that way with the ease of how, because man, those applications can just get so.
I know I almost go on and on about, my brain was trying to think of like some of the most challenging ones, or you read through 3 pages and then there's the one line that makes you not able to qualify, because there's just so much. You're like, yep, this is good, this is good, this is good. Oh, I'm not that,
I'm not 65 and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's so open. And I also really loved the trust in the artists to use the resources for what they need.
Yeah.
And
I like what you said about that.
Like, sometimes you have to pay the rent in order to be able to be an artist, and that is funding your art.
What are you going to use this money for? I'm going to the dentist. I like that.
I could probably find the article, but I was stunned. That was those were McKnight grants in the Twin Cities, and I just remember reading through all the recipients and how they each had like very real life things on their list of what they needed to use the money for, in addition to the work that they were going to make. But yeah.
I have lots of hopes and dreams that this is the start of programming like this, like especially since we've gone to like the gig economy in the past 10 years and things like that. I would love to see this be the way of the world turning and recognizing that maybe big institutions, particularly in the art world, as we've come across these challenges of Netflix and like fighting against all the external things, particularly in theater, I'm saying, that there is a recognition that maybe we can think on the smaller scale and support from underneath rather than up above. Because when did trickle down really help anybody?
Yeah, that's a topic for another day.
On that note, I do want to talk about just a couple of things that we have here, if I can find the thing that I need. Cool. Why is what? It says Chrome has lost permission to capture your screen.
We can just talk.
I guess, but I hate that.
I know.
Because then the reality is that the amount of time that it takes me to put these things together.
You want to show it off.
I just there's a purpose for people who are visual and all of those types of things, and I think it's just because I updated the damn computer, and screw you, Monterey. Thanks, Apple. So anyway, I guess the first thing that I have to mention is opening tonight at Skylight Music Theatre is Erna Shackleton Loves Me, directed by the wonderful and amazing Jill Anna Ponasik. Yeah,
pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah, we were talking as a team last night, finally, about how many of us, what our odds were individually of how much we thought this would ever open, just because of COVID and the situation that we've been waiting through, like the chances of a key player not being able to be there and then not being able to mount the production. So we're amazed and delighted that we've made it to opening night.
I'm very proud of you that you all have gotten here. Do you want to quickly just reiterate what the show is about real quick? And
yeah, it's a little miracle. It really is remarkable, the obstacles that the cast and crew have overcome in order to make it possible. It is incredible. But it is about a female composer in her 40s who is a new mother and very down on her luck, who creates a dating video that gets seen by explorers from throughout time, including Constantine and Jacques Cousteau, and Ernest Shackleton, the Antarctic explorer who led an expedition in 1914 that got trapped in the ice for, depending on how you look at it, but 2 years and some months before they returned to England. Yeah. And he miraculously was able to save his entire crew. So all of the sailors that left also returned. And so it's kind of this wild song cycle journey through the endurance, and the piece itself is like full of heart and also really intellectually stimulating. So there's this nice combination of like emotional journey as well as all of these curious and really interesting facts about the endurance expedition, including original footage because they had a filmmaker and photographer on board.
Yeah, and I mean, if people really want to get deeper into that, you were on the show last week talking about
In
the whole
huge detail.
in huge detail about that. But that opens tonight. You can go to skylightmusictheatre.org to check that out, or you can check last week's episode as well to hear Jill Anna talk more about that. Closing tomorrow, Milwaukee Entertainment Group has The Diary of Anne Frank. That's performed at the Subterranean Theater at the Brumner Mansion. It's a new adaptation by Wendy Kesselman, and it's directed by Reva Fox. If you don't know the history of The Diary of Anne Frank, Google it. And that's a great place to start. And then this is a great new adaptation. It really focuses on Anne and sort of as far as I understand it, because I haven't been able to go and see it because I'm an asshole. Her personal struggle and her fortitude and just the amazing person that Anne Frank was. More of a teenage struggle and what she was going through than maybe previous iterations had focused on. Was my understanding of that. So then the next thing that we have is Cooperative Performance has their Pitch and Pour, and this is what is that? I think it's Sunday at 3 p.m. Yes, I am correct on that. That this is their January version of that. If for Cooperative Performance, and they were on a couple weeks back, again, this program is all about sharing all the things of all the people that have all the things going on. So you can go to our Facebook and YouTube and find these people, hear what they have to talk about. Cooperative Performance was one of those. Alan,
I'm not saying it. No.
I have it and then I don't, and then like if I can't hear things in my head, then I can't do. Alan,
it's such a cool event. It's a cool company and a cool event.
Yeah, it's a really great collaborative environment, and if you are looking to start a project or to taking something to the next level or something like that, this is the thing that you want to do. So go to cooperativeperformance.org and find more about that. It is a virtual event, so you can do it in sweatpants in your home and talk to them about why they should help you make a show about explorers and a woman coming out of a fridge, or cat going out of the fridge, and like all the things. So you can talk to them about that. That's again at cooperativeperformance.org. Milwaukee Opera Theatre has their virtual voice lab for January next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Yeah. You want to give a little
email?
Are you already full?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I haven't checked.
Well, maybe we should have Danny on this program. Why don't we
have secrets if you have Danny on the.
The point is, you only take 12 singers. This is
for the Zooms.
Yeah,
we keep it to 12 so that everybody can see each other's faces on the screen, and because the point is connection and sharing. And so, but there are sometimes we have auditors who keep their camera off, which is also cool. There are people who just like to kind of have it on in the background and still hear what folks are working on. So that's infinite. We can have infinite auditors.
I should do that so I can have my panic attack. Off screen. But you can also submit something for feedback.
You can submit a video. Yep.
Yeah, but all of this means that you need to reach out to Danny Brylow at dbrylow@gmail.com. And you can go to MilwaukeeOperaTheatre.org to learn all about Voice Lab. And hopefully when the weather gets better, you can be back together and all of that. Pink Umbrella has class registration open right now because their winter classes start in February. If you're interested in coaching puppetry, acting, improv, musical theater, all of those types of things, they have those classes available. If you are unfamiliar with Pink Umbrella Theater, they are the theater company that gives opportunity and focus on and will one day be completely run by people who identify with disability, whether it's intellectual, emotional, physical, all of the things. Someday that company, as soon as Katie Cummings gets all of her hopes and dreams fulfilled, and she pushes it off to that community and goes, here, have a theater, which is just amazing. So you can go to pinkUmbrellaTheater.org to sign up for those classes. You should just do, I mean, if you're a beginner, if you're not a beginner, do that thing. Kids from Wisconsin also has an opportunity to do their tour this summer. They are having auditions coming up. If singing is you should first go to the Voice Lab next week, and then
practice
and get all your feedback and all the things, and then you go to your Kids from Wisconsin audition because they take how many? 36 people. 36 performers get room and board, and then there's also instrumentalists, and it's the full singing, dancing, live music experience that you could ever hope for if you are between the ages of 15 and 20. So do that. That is at kidsfromwisconsin.org. I always have to thank Imagine MKE for their use of this thing, and by next week I'll figure out why Apple has made my browser not let me show my fancy cue cards.
You could go low tech and I could just like hold up pictures.
I mean, I should have just thought of that as a backup plan. Like I should, like this, I mean, maybe this is universal
cards and be like, and then this is.
Yep. Yeah, that is exactly where I should just print these off as a backup just in case this happens.
And then we can throw them behind our heads when we're done, and it'll be a whole thing. It'll be like a trademark thing. We could rip them.
It's even early in 2022. We can make it the 2022 thing.
There you go.
But you know the reason that like the electronic thing is big because then you don't use paper. Like less tree damage. Recycle. That's what we're doing. All right. So happy opening.
Thank you.
To you. I'm so glad that you made it here, but you all are doing like you're just, the day is packed with all the last minute things because of the COVID interruption. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was intense.
Just a reminder out there, bring your vaccination card.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask. If you don't like touching other people's hand sanitizer, bring your own. Like we're still here, people. We're still here. So do your thing to keep live theater going, even if it's a week. Push back a week. Chamber Theater also had to push theirs back a week. Project I was mentoring pushed theirs to April.
Yep.
So this is real. 2 years later. So yeah, just get out there, see some stuff. And I don't know who's going to host next week because Lisa is, as far as I understand it, one of the busiest humans, as well as are you. But, you know.
We'll figure it out. That's next week. That's so far from now.
So 7 days away?
Yeah.
Who cares? Woo! Throw the card. All right. Thank you so much for hosting you. Thank you all out there for being interested in the Milwaukee theater and arts community. And we will see you next week on You've Got a thing.